Welcome to Getting to the Truth in This Art on MTR Podcast. I am your host, Rob Lee, the ravaging Rob Lee. And today's guest is writer, independent contractor, and Connect plus Collect gallery coordinator, Teri Henderson. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Hi. How are you?
I got to come up with a different word. I've been saying delicious recently and people have laughed at me. So it's worked again. It's still effective. I'm doing good. I'm stuffed. We're recording this a few days after Thanksgiving. So I'm trying to, kind of get back in form. Too much sitting around, too much eating baked items.
You still have the itis from last week.
Yes. It's like delayed onset itis.
Yeah. It's real.
So, again, thank you for coming on. And I wanted to ask you a few questions because I see you're doing things. You popped up in my timeline. So I was like, let me reach out. Let me see what's shaking, what's good. So got your bio and all of that good stuff. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But first, let's get into like your background. Could you describe your work and what you do? What's your day-to-day looking like?
Yeah. So, right now it's a lot of writing. So I am a writer, staff writer, but and writing was something that I took a break from. I think that's something that's central to my story and my journey to Baltimore. Is I moved here to go to law school. So I'm originally from Texas, and I got a scholarship to UB Law, went to law school, hated it. And the entire time was like still kind of like writing freelance for different publications and independently curating while I was in school, which is probably why I did poorly in law school, because I was not focused on it. It was not for me. But so now like I work full time for Beamer Art. I've been working there since March. And I was originally hired to run the Connect and Collect gallery and program. So we have a gallery at 2519 North Charles Street. Because of the pandemic, we had to kind of like readjust what my role was because we were not doing physical exhibitions in the space because of the lockdown or quarantine regulations.
Sure.
So we transitioned towards doing like digital exhibitions, which is a separate project. But so right now my day-to-day is writing. So I'm also a horrible procrastinator. So I texted somebody today and I was like, why do I write? Why am I a writer? Because I hate it, but it feels great when it's published. And then also like I'm an independent curator. So aside from my work with Beamer Art, I do other projects. So people will reach out to me and ask if I would like to curate something in their space. And then that's what I do. So my most recent project just closed in DC. It was a video installation project with Cultural DC, and that one closed yesterday, which is November 30th. And then the second part of it opens on January 30th. So right now I'm kind of like taking a little bit of a curating break, focusing on writing, and then we'll shift back in like 2 weeks into worrying about that project. So that's my day every day. Yeah, that's what's going on.
It sounds like there's a few balls in the air right there, actually.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I also just started, like, something that's really close to my heart is I started this arts incubator called the Black Collages Art Incubator. And its goal is to collect and highlight the work of Black people making collage across the world. And so it's underwritten by the Doug and Lori Canyon Art Collection, which are collage collectors based out of Washington State. But basically, it's just like researching, and it has an Instagram account, which is growing, and it's just like buying Black people's making collages work. So that's cool. It's not my money, can't afford to do that, but using these other people's money to like, it all ties into my curating talent, I guess. So that's everything that I'm doing right now.
Also, this is one other thing.
Yeah, that's it. That's the last thing. Yeah.
Well, that's great. It's great to hear that you're working on like a lot of projects that have your interest in there, keeping your interest and keeping you busy. In terms of some of you mentioned writer, you mentioned some of your other talents. In terms of like, what has like influenced you, like maybe personally or your experience? Because you said law school earlier, but that was a shift. You shifted away from that. Yeah. But what's influenced some of your creative interests in some of the areas that you've pursued to work in? That's
a good, deep question. So, wow, it just goes back to like, if we go for my personal journey is like, I was born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas, and I knew I wanted to go somewhere else. So I was like applying to schools across the country, moved to Baltimore, and I immediately, like before I got, like when I first got here, I was like, I'm only going to be here a year. I'm going to apply. I was going to go to Seattle University School of Law and just like transfer. And then I got here and I was like, you know what? I like it here. I'm going to stay. So I think the things that inspire me are Baltimore, number one. I found a really great community, like tribe of people that are creative, that inspire me every day, and that have, like, if I hadn't met certain people, I wouldn't have my job. I wouldn't be who I was. I wouldn't be brave enough to take risks about some of the things that I do artistically. And I think that Baltimore is just such an incredible, I use the word incubator a lot in my practice, but it seems to be this, I hate saying magical but it's like, I need to think of a better word, but it seems to be like this place where if you want to make something happen, you can. Like everybody has to hustle here, so we do.
Sure.
So that's what inspires me. And also just like Black contemporary art, like seeing Black people make work right now and knowing that they're alive making this work, and that you can purchase their work and like that directly helps them continue their practice is something that inspires me.
That sounds great. It's
thank you.
You know, especially like being around it and being around different artists, visual artists, musical, so on, and just kind of seeing it and getting it at its most pure form, like just right there. It's like, I can talk to this person. Because one of the things I hope to do with this podcast as a whole is, you know, you'll run into like in a piece of art, or you may talk to someone, but you don't really see them as a person. You just see them as the work that they've created. And that's one thing I want to kind of get to. It's like, I try to have those authentic conversations because that's what I think Baltimore is about. One of the things that makes Baltimore such a magical place, an incubator. I'm using your words now. I'm stealing, plagiarizing. But makes it that because I think like once someone gets to a certain level that they crave authenticity and they lose it, but that's just inherent here.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you said it perfectly.
So what do you feel? Because since you talked about Baltimore a little bit, that's already one of my other questions. So I might as well ask you another Baltimore related question. What do you feel is the role of arts in Baltimore and beyond, specifically with Black people?
What do I think of the role of Baltimore in the arts?
I'm sorry.
Role of arts?
Yes.
Well, I mean, this is something I think about a lot. It's like there's so many like microcosm communities across the city. So like when I was in law school, it was like I only hung around. Well, that's not true. I was around my law school friends, but then I would like be at the Crown around like my artist friends that I actually wanted to spend time with. And so I think that so much of my universe is centered around the arts and creative practice, and just people who are like a whole lot of people who are like bartending or like serving so that they can fund their artistic practice. And I think that Baltimore has this really great creative economy in terms of like Black people making artwork that I have a limited knowledge of what other art communities are. I know a little bit about Seattle art scene because I worked there for a year or for a summer, an intern there, but it's like, I don't know. It's like, I hate saying it. Like, what would Baltimore be without Black artists? I would not, it would be Fells Point, and I don't go over there. It would be Federal Hill. So it's like, it's just, the city is indebted towards Black people making Black art. And like soon, I hope that there will be some kind of like more funding, like more Black art spaces, like more support. Because again, like people talk about like visit Baltimore, come to Baltimore, and it's because of the Black people making Black art, or like whether it's like music, like the history of, all these things like Black club music and all of like DJ culture, all that stuff. It's like, where did it come from? It came from Black people. So yeah, it's like what would this city be without Black creators? I wouldn't want to be here.
Yeah, that's the thing that gets taken away. Like early on when doing this show, I used to ask like more James Lipton like questions. I would ask people, "What's your favorite curse word?" or things like that. And one thing that came up, because like I try to operate, I do a little bit more structure now because I realize I intimidate some people with the questions I'll ask. But the one question I used to ask was in terms of the pop culture representative, right? Of like outside of Baltimore, who is the Black representative of pop culture that has ties to Baltimore? And we can rarely find an answer because there's almost none. Like you think of like Baltimore, you may think of John Waters or somebody. And that's the thing that kind of gets me. And it's like, when we know better, because there's a lot of stuff that comes out of it. Like, is stuff, as you touched on earlier, with like club music that, that WAP song it's got it's a club song in there.
Exactly. I mean, like, and I would like immediately my brain would go like to like Black Star or DJ K Swift, but that's like that's not like I feel like it's like more of a niche.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, like, which is sad because it, like their music influences, like you mentioned, like on the radio, like that's a Baltimore club song.
Yeah,
Somebody needs to write about that. Not me because I do not have time, but and then there's also like Amy Sherrill is who I would say if you ask me that question. Sure. But again, I'm sure that unfortunately there's like a lot of white people that don't necessarily know who she is and about her work, but she lived here. Like she had a studio at the Motor House. Yeah. And so it sucks, but it's like, how do we circulate that? I don't know. Yeah,
because like the thing that gets me, and I'll leave my Baltimore related rant off because this is the most mellow rant you're over here. But it's kind of like my feelings around like what is it, the Charm City Kings thing? And it's like, cool, something's getting made here and it's got people in it, but it's like, yo, Meek Mill is from Philly. Why is he like the greatest dirt bike dude ever? And I look at The Wire and, going to being in college at the time when that show was still on the air and, having to answer questions like Baltimore questions, which I kind of liked, but also it's just like, none of these guys are from Baltimore. Some of these guys are British. There's a lot of New Yorkers here.
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen The Wire, but when I was, when I told people that from Texas that I was moving here, they're like, "Oh my God, have you seen The Wire?" And I was just like, "No, white person, I have not The Wire. I know where you're going with this though." But it's who gets to filter Baltimore culture, because you're right with Charm City Kings. I like saw some clips of it where people were like the actors doing the horrible rendition of a Baltimore accent, and I was just like, "What the fuck is this?" Like. Because I'm around Baltimore, like this is where I live. I've been here for 5 years, so it's like nobody I know talks like that. But some white lady in Idaho is gonna watch it and think that that's indicative of the life of a Black person, and that's deeply problematic. So
I've been here. I'm from here. Been here nearly 36 years, and I get accused of not being a Baltimorean because I don't have an accent. I sound like I'm from somewhere else. So it's like I'll give you guys a pass, but not all of y'all sound like this.
Yeah, I mean, like when I was back home, everybody was like, "Well, you don't sound Texan," and I was just like, "What does that even mean?" Especially for Black people, it's like, we're not having this conversation.
What do you mean? So
yeah, whatever.
So in coming from Texas to like, so before coming here, like how long were you in Texas? Was it like you grew up most of your life there, or so?
Yeah, Fort Worth, born and raised. So I mean, like I went to high school at Lake Worth High School, which is would be, I guess, like Towson to Baltimore, but I was born in, we lived, born and raised in Fort Worth. Like my mom was a teacher in the Fort Worth school system. And I went to elementary school where she taught, which was hellish because that's again, another story for another day, because I would get in trouble, had to go to her classroom. But when I went to college, I applied again. I got into Spelman. I got in a really good scholarship to Howard, and I wanted to go, but I ended up staying in Fort Worth. I think I was kind of scared still back then about leaving. But I went to TCU, Texas Christian University, and it was freaking 20 minutes from my house.
Go Horned Frogs or what have you.
I miss football games. so much. Like that's part of the culture that I wish I could have taken with me is I miss that culture of like tailgating and getting drunk and going to football games. But I mean, yeah, memories. So then I was in Fort Worth my whole life and I was like, I had traveled a little bit, like I did study abroad and I was like, I was just remember thinking I can't stay here my whole life. I'll go somewhere else and I can come back. And then, like I said, I knew I was going to law school, thought I wanted to be a lawyer, but I can be true to myself and say I was always going to law school to be able to afford to own an art gallery. So that was always my goal, was to become an attorney, help artists, buy an art gallery, and then like after 10 years, stop being a lawyer. So it was supposed to be a means to an end. So it's cool that I'm able to kind of do it, even though it's not my space, but still doing that thing. That was my, applied, got a good scholarship to UB, which brought me here. Did not finish law school, but that's okay. And now I'm out here though. So shout out to UB Law for that.
It was like, I think listening to it had like people, when you're able to identify like, this is not really my thing. Like I'm going to do something different. Like I went to Morgan, did the whole like program there, did the whole graduate. I mean, I'm not graduate. The whole grade school business management program, got through. The only male to finish in my program's inaugural thing. And I was like, cool. And thought I wanted to be a marketing guy. Did that for like 5 years. And then they had a strike and then I lost my job and I had to pivot and went to higher ed. But within that first 2 years of that 5 years I was in marketing, I was done with the whole luster of, I make a lot of money. I was like, I need to do something creative. And that's when I started podcasting. I felt completely burnt out at 24. And I was like, I need to do something creative to quell this to satiate myself. And been doing it ever since. And it's funny, I work as a data analyst now, and that's not what I even tried to do in school. It was just like, SQL? Ugh, what's that? Yeah. So speaking of, let's see, projects. Let's talk about projects a little bit. What are some projects you've organized? You mentioned one earlier, the one that was in DC. What are some projects that you've organized or have been a part of that have been really exciting to you?
Okay, so there's this other thing that I do, not by myself. So I, in 2019, began this project with my art partner. His name is Malcolm Lomax. He's a visual artist. And we started this collaborative nomadic curation platform called WDLY. People say it as Wildly. And it's just a platform that's focused on promoting like non-traditional creatives, Black, brown, queer, just people who might not necessarily be in more traditional art spaces, which are usually pretty white. Sure. And kind of like activating spaces that are non-traditional and putting art in them. So the coolest thing that we ever did was we had the Baltimore Museum of Art has this event series called Art After Hours. So last October 2019, we partnered with the BMA and they gave us a budget and we took over Art After Hours. So it was Malcolm and his has a art practice called Wickerham and Lomax, and it was their 10-year anniversary of making work together. And it was so we again like took the BMA's money, thank you BMA, and took over Art After Hours. So it was like a lot of planning, and it was so cool to see like again like people that I hung out at the Crown with or like anywhere else, like in the BMA, like fully dressed up. We had like an awesome DJ, just like so many Black people just like happy, and like it was beautiful. Like we got some really great photos that night. So that was a moment where I was like, okay, like we actually did this. Like we made this happen. And they were foolish enough to give us money and we pulled it off. So like that was a moment that felt where I was like, I must be like not onto something, but I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, because it was stressful as hell. I mean, like it was like one of those things, like, you know, when you're like in a flow state and you're just like, time is gone. So it was like, the event was 3 hours and it was like 10 minutes before it was done. And I was like back in my body and I was like, oh my God, like it's over. Thank God. need to take this like really tight dress off and like breathe and get a drink because I don't drink during events. So I was like, it's time to get drunk. Where's the after party?
Yo.
But it was like, yeah, it was. But that was because we like our program. It was really cool. We set it up as it was a wedding, a funeral, like a 3-part thing. But we had like traditional like black like chicken like black people food, soul food, like those baby shower meatballs. Like we had this really beautiful tiered wedding cake that we got that everybody got to eat cake. We did a toast. And then all of the bands that performed were like our friends or like people that we knew that were local Baltimore artists.
Sure.
And it was really cool. Like that's something that we did that was like, okay, like WDLY did that. We had a Black Prom in February, which is the last event that we did at this. I don't know if you've been to 311 West Madison. It's a Black owned restaurant in Mount Vernon.
Yeah.
So we did a Black Prom there. It was at the end of January, I think. Or no, it was for Valentine's Day. So it was so cool. Like we had like drinks named after different romantic Black movies and we had like everybody was like super dressed up and just like celebrating Blackness and art. I love WDLY, but because of COVID, we took a break because our programming is about people. Yeah. And we were both super busy and I didn't want to like half-ass anything. So we're taking a break, but we'll be back. We're working on something for May 2021. Look out.
I'm looking forward to it. Everything you described there sounded like fire. And I think with the BMA, I feel like I went to an event. I'm just like not placing the time because like my partner has tickets or like the membership. And I remember we rolled up there and I'm a little bit of a heel sometimes. I make fun of art types. I'm like, your art's great, but you look pretentious. And I was like, a lot of tiny. I was like, it's a lot of tiny glasses and scarves here tonight, and I would just say things like that. But we just had a great time, and also as an additional point, one of the things that I've been trying to do recently, because I've talked to some jazz musicians and just kind of getting this vibe of going back to like the late 80s and the early 90s and just looking at Black cinema and like some of like Spike Lee's older stuff, you'll have like jazz in there. So, you know, you're going to have your problematic stuff in there. That's the thing. But you'll have like, I think I watched Mo Better Blues and like She's Gotta Have It. And I was like, yes.
Yes.
So hearing you had an event with drinks named after like different movies and then like just this romantic, like that's fire to me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think that it was good for us to take a break because we both are like hyper tuned into details like that. Like Malcolm made this really incredible menu of like, and he like made like pickled all these ingredients and made like fresh. It was so, and the menu was incredible because we wanted it to be like a Black prom. Yeah. So like we did a rollout with like different Black prom couples and it was really special. It was a super small and intimate event because you had to pay for tickets. Sure. Compared to the BMA, because that was just like not our budget. The Black prom came out of our budget, so it had to be small. But it was awesome. I look forward to. I mean, that's something that I missed about our lives before COVID was being able to be in spaces with people that you like a lot, but you might not necessarily be like close friends with them. Does that make sense? Like the people you would see when you go out, like your bartender, and you're not really friends. Yeah. But I mean, I don't get any of those interactions. I live by myself. So it's like super weird for me to not be around people.
No, I get you. I realize it much more now. Like I live by myself too. I have a cat here who's a dick, but I live with him and that's about it. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things where, you know, the majority of the week I'm just here either doing podcasts and it's a way to try to connect with people. And maybe when we're all still masked up or when things kind of get a little healthier and there's a vaccine or whatever, then like, oh, hey, you know, we should grab a drink sometime. We should chit chat and get to know each other because, you know, Baltimore is still small and it's like you see these people all the time. Like you talked about the Crown. I'm in that area all the time when we're not quarantined or whatever. And it's just, I don't know. It's just like,
you've probably seen me.
Probably.
Probably saw me.
And it was funny, like when you described just something that's just close to you of I built this out and did this on my own, it was my own budget, it has a different feeling. So when we did our 10th anniversary show, we did it at Big, and it was basically the relationship I had there. They wanted me and, you know, my friends to be there, and we're all podcasting in a residency kind of capacity. They're like, you guys know what you're doing. Can you just come here regular? It's like, yeah, sure. Why not? And, you know, we did it for a while, and I kind of threw out there. I was like, our 10th anniversary is coming up. Could we use your space for the free?
Yeah.
And they said, yeah. So once we had once we kind of booked the venue, then you know, I'm an analyst, but with no like actual logistic experience, I was like, we're going to build this out somehow. Let's put together a mailing list. Let's do banners. We did all of this different stuff. And people came out. That was the largest audience we had for a live show. We recorded it, and it was a lot of fun. And it was just as close to what I wanted, what my vision was. And, you know, some of the people we've made friends with within the community, some of the business folks like Diablo Donuts, they catered the thing for us. And I was like, just off of us being friends. And I was like, this is dope.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah. So I got a few more questions before we wrap up, and I'll give you back the rest of your evening because you're busy. You're always busy.
I got a story that I need to turn in tonight, but you know, it's fine. It'll get done. It's gonna get done. So
it's funny. That's a haphazard segue into my next question. What do you enjoy doing when you're not working?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Lord
Professional
Jesus.
segue.
I'm just thinking, it's funny that you say this because I was on my call earlier and I was like, I really need to find a hobby that is not art related because they always turn into work. As much as I love them, I need a break. So it's like, you get it, like you're home alone. So it's like, I'm like, okay, I'm bored. Let me just do some work. It's terrible. I'm working every day, but okay. So what do I like to do when I'm not working? I like watching 90 Day Fiance. I just started High Fidelity. Have you seen that on Hulu?
I saw the original movie. Haven't watched the series yet, but it's on my list.
If you're somebody that likes music, it's really cool. Like they do like some really cool things with, and I think Questlove was the music person. I just watched all of Insecure and like, cause I never watched it before in quarantine. I watched it all. And then other than that, it's just TV. Honestly, it's so sad because aside from, I'm usually reading art articles or like looking at work online or writing. So my joy is like doing things that involve like no creative input, which is just me being in front of the TV, like my TV. So bad. Because I didn't even have a TV before quarantine, but I bought one. So
well, you got it.
I'm just trying to think what else I don't know what else I do. This is so sad. I don't know what else I do besides art stuff.
Well, that's just
nothing.
That's what you're doing. Like I share a birthday with Questlove, so that means it's a quality thing there. Insecure fan.
Aquarius vibes.
Gang. Yeah, I mean, it is bad. The work thing is bad. Like, because I'm logged in all the time. So sometimes because I have a weird sleep schedule, like I finally got that under wraps. So sometimes I might wake up at 4 a.m. I'll go out, take a walk, do my like normal weighted cardio in the morning, and then come back and it's like 5 o'clock and it's like, I guess I'll log in for the next 10 hours. Yeah. It's like, I need to have better things going on.
Yeah, but I think it's also, if you asked me this question like last year, I would have a better answer because I think that I fill my days with work because there's nothing else for me to do. Like I can't go to a gallery or walk around a museum by myself. I can't like get on the Mark and go to DC or travel or just like be at the Crown. Can't do that right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, let me just work, and which is not healthy for Black people. But this is how I'm coping with quarantine. It's just like grinding, and hopefully this time next year I'll be able to give you a better answer about.
I'm going to hold you to that. I'm going to hold you to that this time next year.
December 1st, we're going to do a follow-up, and I'm going to be like, oh my God, I have all these great hobbies.
It's like, so Teri, what do you got? Okay.
Motivate me.
So actually, I have one more question, and I have a Baltimore question, and then that'll be that. Okay. So crystal ball this one for me, if you could. Okay. How do you see art specifically in Baltimore moving forward in the next, let's say 5, maybe 10 years?
That's I see Baltimore becoming more when I say relevant, I don't mean that it's irrelevant now, but I just mean like more of a like heavy hitter in the contemporary art market in the United States. Like I see Baltimore, I don't want Baltimore to become a New York or an LA by any means, because I feel like we would lose our soul. But I would want people with money to collect work from Baltimore artists. And I think that will happen. I think that Baltimore is like Brandon Woody was shot by Shan Wallace recently for Calvin Klein, like incredible. Amani Lewis is just on the cover of Juxtapose Art magazine that came out yesterday. And then like there were 3 Baltimore artists on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. Like you can't ignore Black people making work in the city anymore. So I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we will see that continuing, the momentum building. And then I think also like with the closures or with things shifting because of COVID, I hope to see, and I have a feeling like more DIY spaces popping up that are Black owned and represented. And like, so those kinds of things. So like more spaces that are run by Black people for Black people in the city, which are necessary. And I think it's possible. That would be my utopia, but I also think it's going to happen. I have faith.
That's optimistic, and I think I agree with you mostly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, now the last question I had, this is generally the ball buster question. Okay. So I want to combine it. So you have to include at least one place to eat in this scenario.
Okay.
If we're not in COVID. So you have a friend that's visiting town. What are 3 things that you tell them that they have to do? Let's say it's a long weekend. 3 things that they have to do in Baltimore.
You're putting me on the spot.
I really am.
But it's not COVID times.
It's not COVID times where, everything is chill.
Shit. Okay, I need a second. Let me think about
feel free. I'm going to pad.
Okay, so somebody that I like is coming to the city, and we only can do 3 things.
One has to be food, by the way.
Oh, one has to be food. Okay, dang. Okay, let me think. Well, so many places that I like have closed. It's so sad.
Right, that stinks.
No, but that's okay. So, food. We would go. There's only 3 things allowed. So we would go to Sugar Ale, which is my favorite bar in the city. It's still open. It's in Mount Vernon, and they have Tuesday night burger. Oh, it's a weekend. It's fine. So we can get a hamburger at Sugar Ale because they're good. They don't have fries, but the burgers are good. And they make really strong drinks. So we go to Sugar Ale, and then we would go to the Crown because I am a club rat. That's fine. Okay. I own it. So we would go to the Crown, and we would probably see a lot of people I know there, like being in that space. Like the Crown is awesome. And what else do we do? There's like, God. Probably I want them to see some art. So probably like a gallery tour of some of my favorite spaces, or like I would set up some studio visits. So we would definitely go to like I Love Resort, it's in the Bromo Arts District current space. We would go there, and there's usually like before COVID, there would always be stuff on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like openings or like shows that were up. So it'd be easy to kind of like hop between all those places. So see some art, get drinks at Sugar Ale, and go to the Crown. And just be there from like 10 until like 1:45 when the kids out. That's what I would do.
Okay. I like this. I'm stealing that idea, but I like this.
It's fine. Now I'm sad because now I'm just gonna like be in my apartment because we can't do any of these things.
Sorry.
But it's gonna happen again. Yeah. Damn, it's gonna happen again. I have faith. We can't keep living our lives like this.
Yeah, I gotta check out Sugar Ale. I've never been there. And
oh my God, it's so good.
So
and they were doing sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
Oh, they were doing like to-go drinks for a little while, but it's not the same. Like it's a super small bar. It's tiny.
Yeah.
So you have to like walk down the stairs. And maybe there's like 6 tables in there, but it's like super chill bartenders. They had a TV like when I first moved over there. They had like an old VHS holding TV. They would play like Twister, the movie, all these things. But it's just like a chill hole in the wall, but like expensive, but you will get drunk. I don't know if you drink. I know I talk about alcohol a lot. It's fine. But
I have 4 bottles of alcohol as gifts in here. I've got Haitian rum.
Oh, wow. So you know.
Yeah, I'm down with the cause.
Oh, yeah, but you should go to Dutch Courage. Because they're open right now.
I'm around Dutch Courage regularly. They've been on the show.
Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. That would be the other place we would go. Sugarmill was closed. I love Dutch Courage.
Dutch Courage is fire. It was funny. It's funny. I would go there and they would switching out the drinks so often in the beginning of this stuff. I was like, oh, I like that. Oh yeah, we switched the menu again. I was like, damn it.
Oh my God, I know. I'd be so mad. So we would always sit out on the sidewalk because my friends smoke. But their drinks are good and they're good people. So yeah, I support Dutch Courage.
They have this one sandwich that I like there a lot. It's like this Asian, I think it's Hawaiian. It's like ham and cheese and pineapple on there. It's fire.
The food is good. The food is good. That's an underrated like restaurant. Like people just think of it as a gin bar. Yeah. And I hate gin, so I didn't want to go in the beginning, but I was like, okay. Shout out to Dutch Courage because it's awesome.
Absolutely. So that's that. Feel free to, shout out your social media where people can check out your stuff and check you out if you're so inclined.
That's fine. So my Instagram and my Twitter is the @ symbol and it's HALLETERI. So it's like @HallieTeri. There's a long story about that we're not going to talk about. But that's my social media. And you can follow Black Collagist. I would appreciate that. So it's just the @ symbol Black Collagist. And then follow Be More Art because I'm published on there a lot because I work for them. And just follow us, support us. So that's my social medias. I deleted Facebook. I'm really happy about that. So yeah.
So thank you. This has been a lot of fun. I'm gonna do my wrap up and then I'll let you go. For Teri Henderson, I'm Rob Lee saying there's art in and around Baltimore. All you have to do is look for it.